All right, week 3 is here. The Georgia Bulldogs are the #1 team in the country after a win over Samford last week in Sanford Stadium, 33-0. Now it is South Carolina week. The Gamecocks are coming off a 44-30 loss to Arkansas on the road, and basically giving my thoughts about how this game could go. Where I like Georgia, I like them in the game a lot, actually. I think it's going to be a comfortable win. I would not want to be South Carolina right now, because the Dogs are going to come in ready and aggressive. 33-0 over Samford. We talked about the defense, but the offense looked like it, just came up flat and struggled a little bit. Didn't click the way it did against Oregon. So Kirby Smart is going to have some really tough practices. They did not play to the standard that they preached about last weekend, but it's business trip right now to Columbia. Noon kickoff. It's going to be hot. It's going to be miserable. I'm in the press box, so I don't have to deal with the heat as much as the players do, but it might be loud for a quarter. But Georgia, I think, is going to come out aggressive. First SEC matchup on the road. They're going to come ready to play. I expect them to get out to a fast start, get on the board early, and I'm going to talk about why basically right now. First, I want to talk about South Carolina's defense. They gave up 295 rushing yards to Arkansas. Raheem Sanders ran wild on them. They have a lot of talent in the defensive line. 5-star Zach Pickens, 5-star Jordan Birch, two guys that Georgia recruited. If you follow recruiting, you've heard of some of these guys, but they were getting pushed backwards. And South Carolina, in the trenches on both the offensive line and defensive line, they're a little soft. They can be pushed around. So I do think that this matchup goes well, for Georgia, lines up well for them. We saw what happened last week. Anyone can beat anyone. I guess South Carolina could beat Georgia if they played 100 times. Maybe they beat them once or twice, but this is a matchup that you really have to like Georgia's chances, even if they weren't the #1 team in the country. I think they have a statement to make up front, running the football. They need to do a little, just a better job there, be more consistent, run the ball. And I think going up against South Carolina's defense, who just did not look physical at all. They were being pushed back. They didn't get a hand on the Razorback running backs until 5-6 yards down the field sometimes, missed a lot of tackles. This sets up for the Georgia offense, who is trying to pass the ball more. They threw the ball a lot the first 2 games. I don't really expect that to change a lot. I think Stetson Bennett, and one of my, not a hot take, but a take, is going to have 300 yards passing again for the 3rd straight game. I expect him to have a rushing touchdown as well once they get around the goal line. Georgia's so tough to stop when they show that, hey, we got the Stetson Bennett guy who could still run the football, in case you forgot. So he's great down there. The dude, I think, turns 25 in October. He's been around a long time. He knows how to play the position. And I think if he's smart with the football, Georgia's going to score a lot of points. I think I have them winning 45-14 right now. That's just what I'm feeling. I think South Carolina is going to move the football a little bit. They threw for over 300 yards, but Antoine Wells is a really good receiver. It wouldn't surprise me if he made a play or two. Marshawn Lloyd lost a fumble against Arkansas, but he's a guy who runs hard, and when he has the football, he could be tough to stop. So the Razorback linebackers had a field day, though. Drew Sanders looked like the 5-star he was at a high school, Alabama transfer. He is having an excellent year for the Razorbacks. Could be a big day for Small Munden and those linebackers. I think South Carolina is not going to have a lot of push up front at all. Not going to be a lot of holes to run through between the tackles. They're going to try to get outside, make plays on the edge, and we'll see Jamon Dumas-Johnson and Small Munden and Trezvon Marshall. Those guys are going to have to get sideline to sideline again, and they look fast. They are fast, so I think it could be a big day for them. Cam Smith is a guy who is very talented, defensive back at South Carolina, tackles really well. We've seen Georgia try to get the receivers the ball quickly out in space on the edge. He's a guy who's not going to miss a lot of tackles. He can play physical. And Stetson Bennett, I'm not trying to throw his way. He's a guy who can make plays for you. But on the other side, KJ Jefferson for Arkansas last week didn't throw for a ton of yards, but he was 18 for 21. So there was a lot that he took what the defense gave them, which was a lot. They were running the ball left and right, which obviously helped him out in the passing game. So, I expect Georgia to throw the ball effectively. That's what they've been trying to do, but they should be able to run it at will. Again, it's going to be really hot, and overall, it's going to come down to talent and depth. Georgia beat South Carolina in both of those categories by a large margin. So while South Carolina is talented, they have some playmakers on offense. They have a defense that is just not playing well right now. And Arkansas is a really good team, but they're going to have a really tough time stopping Georgia, especially if, they try to get the ball to Brock Bowers a little bit more, establish a run game. There's no reason why Georgia shouldn't put up at least 40. South Carolina's not going to come close to that. Maybe they hit a big passing play. It just takes one kind of miscommunication in the secondary to have one explosive play on you. But that's what Kirby Smart preaches to this defense. Hey, get off the field on third down. No explosive plays. They've done a good job of not allowing that so far. It wouldn't surprise me if one happened, especially towards the end of the game, if, some substitutes are in, some young guys. But I do think they'll move the ball a little bit. I still think Georgia's defense is playing very well and still going to play better and better. You can't ask them to play much better. They've given up 3 points all year. It's just 2 games, but still, when you shut out anyone in this level of college football, that's saying something. And then giving up 3 points to Oregon, we talked about that game over and over. But I think South Carolina should be able to move the ball a little bit. But they were 3 for 10 on third downs against Arkansas. That's not going to cut it. And Spencer Rattler was sacked 6 times. They got after him. He was running for his life. So, again, a lot of these games still come down to the trenches. It's good to have skill players on the outside and guys who can score at will, but it's still football. You still have to win the line of scrimmage, and I think Georgia is going to dominate on both sides of the ball. Again, should be a big day for the offensive line. They should be able to get a lot of push, should allow these running backs to establish more of a run game. They've run the ball fine, but there have been times where it just didn't look right. It hasn't just looked as natural. But again, we said in the offseason it's not going to be easy to replace Amir White, James Cook. But I think when they need to run it, when they have to run it, and everyone knows they're going to run it, they need to be a little more successful there. But at the end of the day, they're going to wear out South Carolina. Those guys are going to be gassed. If they start having to use some backups, then it is over. But I think it's going to be hot. I don't think it's going to rain. But again, talent, overall depth, I think is going to get Georgia a big win. Big day for Small Monday, big day for Stetson Bennett. He's just got to keep feeding those tight ends. Darnell Washington could have a big game catching the ball over the middle of the field. I think South Carolina's linebacker play is very suspect. Brock Bowers, it's never a bad idea to get him the ball, but you should see a lot of Georgia running the football in the second half, too. I think the game will be over at the half. I think it's a big half for first half for Stetson Bennett. And then the running game just kind of wears on South Carolina in the second half. So I'm trying to think what has to happen for South Carolina to win the game. And it's probably injuries on Georgia's end. Something goes wrong, just missed opportunities that turn into big plays. That's how they lost to South Carolina in 2019. Throwing interceptions, the pick 6 before the half. That would have to happen again. They'd have to play their best, and Georgia would have to play awful and forget how to run fast and forget how to just be physical and block. So I expect them to come out and play to the standard that they keep talking about. They did it against Oregon. They didn't do it last week, but in an SEC matchup on the road where you're not in your backyard, you have to get into game mode. You have to get into business mode. And again, it's a business trip. They've done it before. They play well on the road, have been the last few years. And this is not a South Carolina team that is close to them in talent, close to them in depth. It doesn't have the coaching. Georgia checks every box. If Arkansas was able to run wild on them, do basically everything they wanted offensively, especially, again, running the football and even passing 8 for 21, they dissected South Carolina's defense. I expect Stetson Bennett to do the same thing. He's got plenty of weapons. Maybe we see some Oscar Delp at times. He chose Georgia over South Carolina. I think this is a big game for him. Maybe give Eric Gilbert another opportunity to catch the ball. We'll probably see more on the offensive line, guys rotating. We saw different guys playing kind of all around on the offensive line the last 2 games, really. So in the heat, I expect it to be hot once again, but I think they could start rotating more offensive linemen again. But either way, we should see some backups in the second half. There's no reason why this game should be close. Again, I have Georgia 45-14 on the road in Columbia. Do think Georgia gets their first SEC win. Get it over with quick, really. It's a noon game. The crowd should be into it a little bit, I guess, but I think Georgia gets off to a fast start and puts their foot on the gas. So we'll see. Need to bounce back after kind of a slower start against Samford, even though, again, it was 30-0 at half. But anyway, Georgia takes care of South Carolina easy. Those are just my early thoughts on the game. Thanks for watching, everyone. Head over to Dog Post. We've got some great stories out right now, and I'll see you over there.